A wild silverback pushed a fallen hiker under a tree. The reason will leave you stunned. The Bwindi Impenetrable Forest is a place where the emerald canopy swallows the sun, leaving only a filtered jade-colored twilight to dance upon the damp ferns below. Here, the air is thick, a heavy, humid promise of rain that clings to the skin like a wet silk shroud. It smells of ancient decay and vibrant rebirth, a pungent mixture of wet earth, crushed moss, and the sweet, rotting perfume of fallen wild ginger. Deep within this fortress of green, a silverback named Baraka, a king of 400 pounds of muscle and obsidian fur, stood over the motionless body of a man. The man was Elias, a veteran tracker whose life had been a long, slow conversation with the great apes. Now, Elias lay in a tangle of roots, his breathing shallow and ragged, smelling of the metallic acidic scent of pain and the cold sweat of a body in shock. In the brutal logic of the wild, a fallen creature is a liability, yet Baraka did not leave. He did not beat his chest in a display of dominance, nor did he retreat into the shadows with his troop. Instead, with a tenderness that defied every law of predatory instinct, the massive silverback reached out with fingers as thick as sausages and began to push Elias. He didn't drag him, he nudged him, rolling the broken man toward the hollowed-out base of an ancient, moss-bearded mahogany tree. The sight was terrifying, a beast of immense power manipulating a fragile human frame, and yet there was a rhythm to it. A deliberate, silent prayer of movement that suggested Baraka knew exactly what he was doing, even as the world around them held its breath in stunned silence. Before we delve deeper into this incredible encounter and the mystery behind Baraka's actions, I want to take a moment to welcome you to the channel. If stories of the profound bond between humans and the wild move you, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to join our community. It helps us continue to share these powerful narratives. I'd also love to hear from you. Where in the world are you watching from right now, and what time is it there? Drop a comment below. We read every single one and love seeing how far these stories travel. The relationship between Elias and Baraka was not born in a moment of crisis, but forged over a decade of shared silence. Elias had spent thousands of hours in the presence of Baraka's family, learning the specific cadence of their grunts and the subtle language of their gazes. He knew the way the morning mist felt on his face, cool and stinging, just as the gorillas did. He had watched Baraka grow from a boisterous blackback into a stoic patriarch whose fur had turned the color of a winter moon. They had a pact, an unspoken treaty written in the dust and the rain. Elias would remain at a respectful distance, a humble witness to their lives, and Baraka would allow him into the inner sanctum of the forest. There were days when the heat was so oppressive that the forest seemed to vibrate. A shimmering haze that smelled of scorched wood and stagnant water. On those days, Elias would sit and watch the juveniles play, their laughter a hooting, rhythmic sound that echoed through the trees. He had seen Baraka shield his youngest from the biting winds of a mountain storm, his massive body a living wall against the elements. It was this deep ancestral trust that had made Elias perhaps too comfortable, too certain of his footing on the day the earth gave way. The crisis began with the sound of a sickening crack, not the snap of a dry twig, but the wet, heavy thud of bone against stone. Elias had been trailing the troop on a steep, mud-slicked ridge when a shelf of limestone crumbled beneath his boots. He tumbled 20 feet down a ravine, his leg twisting into a jagged, unnatural angle. As he lay there, the canopy above seemed to spin, a kaleidoscope of dark leaves and dizzying height. The physical pain was a white-hot iron, but the psychological terror was worse. He was alone, immobilized. And the scent of his own blood was beginning to attract the smaller, more opportunistic predators of the undergrowth. When his fellow trackers realized he was missing, a frantic search began. The air was filled with the frantic calls of men and the sharp, ozone smell of handheld radios. But the forest is a master of hiding its secrets. For 2 days, Elias was lost to the world. Experts later explained that in such conditions, the human body begins to shut down, retreating into a state of metabolic preservation. But while the humans were failing to find him, Baraka had never lost his scent. The Silverback had moved his entire troop away from their usual feeding grounds, leading them toward the ravine. The keepers who eventually found the site through long-range binoculars were horrified. They saw the Silverback hovering over the fallen man, and they feared the worst. They feared that the stress of the situation had triggered a territorial aggression, and that Baraka was effectively guarding a kill. The desperation grew as the clinical signs of the situation worsened. From a distance, the rescue team could see that Elias was no longer moving. His skin had turned a waxy, translucent gray, and the flies were beginning to circle. Baraka's behavior, however, remained the greatest mystery. He would not allow anyone near. Whenever the rescue team tried to descend the ridge, the Silverback would roar, a sound that felt like a physical blow to the chest, a guttural vibration that shook the very air. He seemed to be obsessed with the mahogany tree, constantly checking the position of Elias's body under the roots. The why behind this was hidden until the third morning, when the sun finally broke through a week of clouds, casting a harsh, revealing light into the ravine. It was then that a veterinarian on the rescue team noticed something through a high-powered lens. The stunned truth was not in the push itself, but in the destination. The mahogany tree Baraka had chosen was not just a landmark. It sat atop a natural thermal vent, a rare geological feature where the earth breathed out a constant, gentle warmth from deep underground. Furthermore, the thick, overhanging roots acted as a natural rain shield, but more importantly, they were draped in a specific type of medicinal moss, cinnamosma, which Baraka had been systematically stripping and pressing near Elias's wounds. The reveal was a masterclass in biological empathy. Baraka wasn't just moving Elias, he was performing a rudimentary but effective form of triage. The Silverback had recognized the coldness of Elias's skin, the onset of hypothermia, and had moved him to the only source of heat in the ravine. The pushing wasn't a display of power, but a desperate attempt to keep Elias's circulation moving and to position him where the thermal heat could reach his core. The acidic scent of pain that had radiated from Elias had been met with the earthy, herbal scent of healing from the moss. The Silverback had used his own body heat at night, curling around the man like a giant furry blanket, his breathing synchronized with the man's ragged gasps. When the rescue team finally managed to tranquilize a nearby leopard that had been stalking the perimeter, realizing Baraka had been defending Elias from it as well, they were finally able to move in. The moment of physical reconnection was a release of tension so profound it felt as though the entire forest sighed. As the medics lifted Elias onto a stretcher, Baraka retreated 10 paces. He didn't flee. He sat back on his haunches, his silver fur shimmering in the dappled light, and watched. There was a moment where his eyes met the lead vet's, a gaze that was clear, ancient, and entirely devoid of malice. It was the look of one guardian handing over a charge to another. The resolution of the story saw Elias making a miraculous recovery in a small hospital at the edge of the park. He spoke of the weight of the world pressing down on him in the dark, and the sudden, overwhelming warmth of Baraka's presence. He described the smell of the Silverback, a clean, musky scent of wild celery and rain, as the thing that kept him anchored to the land of the living. When he was finally well enough to return to the forest, months later, the reunion was not marked by fanfare, but by a simple, quiet acknowledgement. Elias sat on a familiar log, the texture of the bark rough and reassuring under his palms. Baraka emerged from the foliage, paused, and let out a soft, rhythmic belch vocalization, the gorilla equivalent of a friendly hello. They sat together in the fading amber light of the afternoon, two beings separated by millions of years of evolution, but united by a single act of grace. The tension that had defined the crisis was gone, replaced by a peace that felt as solid as the mountains themselves. Reflecting on this philosophical legacy, we are forced to confront the limits of our own understanding of animal intelligence. We often speak of instinct as if it were a mindless program, but Baraka's actions suggest something far deeper, a sixth sense of love that transcends species. It suggests that empathy is not a human invention, but a fundamental building block of the biological world. Baraka did not have a degree in medicine, nor did he understand the physics of thermal vents, but he understood the universal language of suffering. He recognized a friend in need and reached across the divide to offer the only things he had: his strength, his warmth, and his protection. This story teaches us that in the heart of the impenetrable forest, nothing is truly closed off if there is a willingness to see the soul of another. It reminds us that we are not the masters of nature, but a part of a complex, beautiful tapestry of life where a silverback can be a savior and a man can be a humble brother to the wild. In closing, the story of Elias and Baraka serves as a powerful testament to the hidden depths of the natural world. It challenges us to look beyond the surface of things and to recognize the profound emotional lives of the creatures we share this planet with. If this journey into the heart of the Bwindi Forest has moved you, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more stories that celebrate the extraordinary bond between humans and animals. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded of the magic that still exists in the world. And before you go, I have a question for you. Have you ever experienced a moment where an animal seemed to understand your feelings or needs in a way that felt almost human? Whether it was a pet or a wild encounter, I'd love to hear your stories of animal intuition in the comments below. Thank you for watching, for listening with your heart, and for being part of this journey with us. Until next time, stay curious and stay kind.